Now 250,000. Now, but to get 275. High, but to get 275. 3. Now 300,000. Now 3 1/4. 325. High, but to get 3 1/4. But to get 325. Now half. Now but to get 300,000. And welcome from Lincoln Center in Dallas, Texas. We're at the intersection of the LBJ Freeway and North Dallas Tollway. Lincoln Center is the center of the universe.
Yep.
For all things real estate. So today we welcome Nick Bristow, the Regional Vice President and Managing Broker of United Real Estate, and we have a working relationship, we have a friendship, and we also have a lot of common interests when it comes to real estate. And then there's some other things that we have in common but you don't know about. So we'll touch on that too.
Cool.
So we welcome Nick. Good morning.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I have one correction. Well, United is the center of the universe for real estate, but the center of the universe is Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Just
oh, really?
put that out there.
That's an update. Late breaking news from the center of the universe. So we welcome Nick, and we're gonna talk about what's going on with your office here in Dallas, and then what's going on with United Real Estate overall, because there's a lot going on, a lot of growth, and throughout our system. And there's a lot of people that are not familiar with United Real Estate or United Country Real Estate or the United Real Estate brands or United Strategic Client Services, which I operate out of here in Dallas. And then we also have Enhanced Marketing Solutions out of Kansas City. So there's we have a lot of different divisions within the company. And so good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, I'm glad to have you on. And we're very proud of our United Real Estate office here in Dallas. Of course, it is the flagship office. It's our original office that we opened. Do you remember what year? Can you tell me what year we opened this office?
2011.
2011. So it's been 8 years. And it seems like just yesterday. Yeah. I remember when we were in Kansas City. Our team was in Kansas City before you joined us. I remember sitting in our conference room talking about establishing United Real Estate. And then also when Dan Duffy and Mike Duffy flew down from Kansas City, I was in charge of showing them potential locations for United Real Estate. And this was my preference, and because I felt like it was central, it was really central to everything. It was easy to get to DFW Airport in about 20 minutes, and you can get to Love in about 10, 12, 15 minutes max. And so of course, at that time, the tollway was a mess. LBJ was a mess. It was all under construction, but we could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and now we have the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming toward us. So we're pretty happy about that. So, Nick, of course, I know a lot about your history, and we've talked about some things in the past, but for those who don't know you, who haven't been exposed to your history, you've got a very interesting history. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Fort Sill, Oklahoma,
okay,
and raised in Dallas.
So how long were you in Oklahoma?
Till I was old enough to crawl across the border to Texas. No, we came over when I was about 4 years old, came to Dallas from, actually we went briefly to Greenwood, Mississippi. I have no clue why. I don't want to know why. But then we ended up coming to Dallas, I think around 1968 or 69.
Now, for all of our good friends in Greenwood, Mississippi, the opinions of Nick. Actually, my sister, Lori, used to live very close to Greenwood,
really?
Mississippi.
Yeah, I've never connected the dots while we went there.
Yeah, well, that's probably good. The opinions that I have also are my opinions only. No, we have. In fact, our number one United Country Real Estate office is in Macomb, Mississippi.
Wow, really?
So we'll do a shout out to our number one office in the group of 450 to 500 offices that we have in that particular franchise group. So we appreciate.
They down in the Delta?
They are not too far, a little further down the river, and not that far from Hattiesburg either. Probably an hour and a half or so, at least, maybe 2 hours north of New Orleans. But they've been very successful, and they've had a run of successful years, and then there's another group that gives them a run for their money, and then they'll pop back in. So we're very happy for their success. Back to your childhood, what did your folks do? when you were a kid?
My mom did nothing. When she came over, we're Greek and Persian.
Mm-hmm.
She grew up in Germany, so when she came to the U.S., she wasn't a citizen. She didn't speak English, so she stayed at home. My dad sold Volkswagen Beetles.
Mm-hmm.
We lived in government housing in South Dallas.
Okay.
That's where I grew up.
Yeah. So you've seen all sides.
Yeah. My nickname was Snowflake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was the lightest kid in the hood, so they called me Snowflake.
Wow. Well, that diversity, of course, opens things up. I think it's really funny when you talk about race relations and all this stuff. And of course, Dallas has its history and things that have happened. But you know what? When I was a kid, I remember very distinctly in kindergarten. We there was not really, at least with the kids, there was no racial divide.
No.
And we had African American kids right in that class, and we're talking this is in the mid 60s. Mm-hmm. And, of course, all we hear about is race, but I can tell you in 65, 66, 67, I remember very distinctly in Gainesville, Texas, second grade, third grade, we were integrated, and after school we were playing together. So, I mean, I wish people could just go back and realize that there may be a racial divide in some places, but a lot of that is perpetuated by people talking about it.
It's taught.
Yeah, it is, and it's on both sides of the track too.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are. Anyway, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent about that, but I think it's important that people understand that some of us have a different perspective. Yeah, and you certainly do.
Oh yeah.
So tell me about your childhood growing up in South Dallas.
It was interesting. We were kids, so we didn't think like this person's black and this. I mean, we just literally didn't think that way. My nickname was Snowflake, and I got my nickname from my friend Bobby. His mom and they lived on the second floor, and in the summer we'd all be running around the street throwing rocks at each other and stuff, and she would throw peanut butter sandwiches out the window, and she was always like, make sure Snowflake gets one. So he would like, okay, here's Snowflake. So that's just how that's how my nickname started. But we're all just good friends. We literally didn't think about.
You didn't see color.
Not even a thought.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been in our thought processes.
Did you have any? And what did your dad do?
He sold Volkswagen.
He sold Volkswagens.
Beetles.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so, what dealership was he working out of? Do you remember?
I've got no idea.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
So what year were you born?
64.
64.
You're the dragon.
Yeah. So tell me about. Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I have an older sister. She's 18 months older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Had dinner with her last night.
Oh yeah. Where's she live?
She lives in Bishop Arts.
Oh yeah. Okay. Very good. That's a neat area.
Oh yeah.
So somewhere along the line, and I don't remember when this happened or how this happened, you ended up living in a car.
Yeah, so it was part of my difficulty adjusting after the military.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I lived in a car a couple times. So when we first moved to Dallas, we lived in a Volkswagen. He was actually driving a Volkswagen
Well,
Beetle.
of course, he loved Volkswagens.
And so we lived in the Volkswagen until he got government housing.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got into the...
You had temporary bug Beetle.
It was all right.
Volkswagen housing.
My sister and I were pretty little, so we kind of fit in the back okay.
I bet that would be interesting if you think about it. I mean, it's like, could you give us your address, please?
Give him the VIN.
It moves around a lot. So, what were your biggest influences? I know. So you go to high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to Bishop Lynch. My senior year, I transferred to Skyline because I was on their swim team,
Mm-hmm.
and so I actually graduated from Skyline.
Okay. Yeah, I know Skyline very well. I've actually
Great school.
Yeah, I actually conducted some auctions for DISD at Skyline High
I actually
School.
liked it better.
It was it's a big school.
Yeah, I liked it better than Lynch.
Yeah. One thing that kind of bothered me the last time I was at Skyline, which has been a long time ago, but there was a huge vocational education class, huge shop class, machines and
airplanes,
everything. They had everything, and they would work on everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, they tell me it was the largest vocational education class in the United States. Yep. And I just remember when I got the call from DISD, I had the contract with DISD for about 25 years to sell all their surplus. Mm-hmm. And they said, we're selling out the vocational education classes. Wow. And then, of course, for an auctioneer, that was probably the best auction, one of the best auctions they ever had. However, we're getting ready for it, I asked him. I said, "What are you going to put in here? I mean, what are you getting rid of? Why are you getting rid of this? And what are we going to put in?" They said, "Oh, we're going computer lab." And so here we are, 30 years later or 25 years later. Most of the kids don't know how to fix a lawnmower.
Yep.
They can't run a lathe or do a drill press or know how to measure and do anything carpentry, which is. And I said at the time, this is the worst thing that can happen in this country, is when we do away with the vocational stuff that is needed to operate and maintain and engineer and develop and just amazing. And here we are, 25, 30 years later, and we are drastically pained for labor. We can't they can't find enough people that really know how to work on anything.
Yeah, my plumber, the last time I got a bid from him, when I got it, I'm like, "Man, where'd you go to medical school?" He's like, "What?" I'm like, "You make more than my doctor."
Well, it's true.
I know.
It's true. If you can get them.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. It's just, that's our fault.
I just called a guy the other day to do some carpentry work on my unit, and he said, "I'll have you a bid in a week." And that was a month ago. Never heard from him again. And there was a time in the old days where someone would bid on something. They'd say, we can start Monday, or we can start next week, or we can have you done in 2 weeks. Now you're waiting a month. Yeah. And it appears to be a very common issue. So you graduate from Skyline, and then what happens?
Then I went in the Marine Corps.
Okay. What prompted that?
Just needed to get out of Dallas. I was hanging around kind of the wrong people. Didn't have any direction. I didn't want. At the time, I didn't want to go to college. I was kind of burnt out with school, and so just made the decision to go in the military. So I decided I want to pick the one I consider to be the hardest, because everybody said I was too little to go. Yeah. And so I picked the Marine Corps.
Well, your nickname was Snowflake. So definitely you want to become a Marine.
Oh yeah.
So what was that like? Where did you go off to basics?
I went to San Diego for boot camp.
Yeah.
Then San Onofre, which is in Camp Pendleton, for infantry training school. When I was in ITS, they asked for volunteers to see if any of us would qualify to go into 1st Recon Battalion. So I volunteered. About 400 of us volunteered. 2 of us made it. And in fact, the interesting thing is my bunk mate from boot camp and I were bunk mates at infantry training school, and he and I, his name was Wanless, we were the ones that got the 2 slots, he and I. So,
it's wild.
Yeah, and we haven't had the same combo on our locks. It's kind of weird.
That is weird.
Meant to be.
Yeah. So what year did you enter the Marines?
1983.
So you went in 83, and then what was going on in the United States at that time?
During that time, well, several things. We were the jungle guys. Our AO was South America, but I was one of the 2 or 3 teams we had. They were still looking for POWs in Vietnam, so I was on one of the teams that would go in to liberate the POWs in the camp if they found them. So we were constantly training for that. But also Iran-Contra was going on, so we ended up my team, my recon team, and about 2 others. There's 6 of us on each team. One of the SEAL teams, I don't remember. Then a couple of ODAs. Went to Panama. We deployed there, and we tracked gun runners in the jungle for a while. Kind of cool stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a movie.
Yeah, we had a great time.
So tell me about your experiences from 94 to 97.
I was in, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to the Army. I decided I want to be a career military guy.
That's what everybody wants to do. Yeah. It's like go in the Marines, get in the jungle, and then I think I'm going to leave and go join the Army.
Well, the interesting thing is I actually tried to talk to the Air Force first because I wanted to be a combat controller, which is their special ops type guys, and they don't take former Marines. They said we're a little out of whack. So they did. He told me y'all are out of whack. So I went into the Army. I tried out for special ops, and I got accepted into PsyOps. So I went to Arabic language school for 13 months, totally immersion. I didn't hear any English except at home for 13 months. Then was on the PsyOp team.
I wanted to talk about that. That was kind of a note that I made. Tell me about learning Arabic. because your mother, of course, spoke foreign language. Did you speak her language when you were young?
German, yeah.
Really?
I've lost most of it. I've always had a proclivity for picking up a language. And I did what's called a D-Lab, which is a Defense Language Aptitude Battery that determines what level language you can learn. And so I maxed the test. So they gave me Arabic, which is one of the hardest languages to learn, and of the foreign languages, that and Mandarin. So they gave me Arabic, thank goodness. So it was a very intense class. It was 6 days a week from 8 in the morning till 6 at night, and then every night you had to sleep with Arabic news headsets playing. So it was just complete immersion. So you get to where you're dreaming in Arabic. It's just kind of trippy.
Well, let's go back to the Marine. You're a little different, you know. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine being in a class for 10 hours.
13 months.
For 13 months. Wow. Well, you better learn.
6 hours a day.
You better learn.
You don't have a choice. You can't not learn
it. That's a trip.
Yeah.
So you do that, and then what happens?
Then I was in a series of accidents. Let's just leave it at that. And I got hurt really bad in '95. Had about 10 surgeries. Then I got out on a medical in '97.
And so then what would you do after that?
Panicked. So, well, I mean, you have to understand, when you go from something from such an intense, constant operational tempo as being in special ops, I mean, every day you're doing very, very dangerous stuff. You're watching friends get hurt or killed or whatever. And so you operate at a level completely different than the civilian sector. And so when you get out, it's like this huge void.
Yep.
It's really hard to explain.
You're lost.
You feel like a foreigner. I got out. One day I'm at Fort Bragg in Special Ops. The next day I'm standing on a sidewalk in Dallas, going, "What in the hell am I going to do?" And you don't feel like you fit in.
Yep.
You feel like you are like on a different planet. And for me, transitioning was extremely difficult. I had a very difficult time. It took me probably 12, 14 years.
To regroup?
Yeah, and it really wasn't until I started going to the VA for PTSD therapy that kind of got me on the right track. So they took care of me.
Well, and I don't think most people, the average citizen that is not connected to military, and especially someone who's been in those types of surroundings. I mean, there's different levels, as you well know.
Yeah.
And so when you hear about someone who comes back and they don't know what to do and they end up on the street, you hear about this all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, how can that happen?
Yeah.
And do you think that should be something that the United States government does to help the guys and gals that come back and get them balanced out rather than just let them go and say, like, it's almost like being paroled?
Yeah. It is. I mean, they offer the help. A lot of veterans won't accept the help, or maybe it's not offered clearly to where they understand that that's available. One thing you have to understand about veterans and homelessness, during my master's program, I had written a paper on that specific topic, and one thing you have to understand, the demographic of the military. The people there are more likely to possibly suffer from homelessness. The reason is a lot of people that join the military, not all of them, some of us like me, I joined because I love my country, I want to fight for my country, but some people can't find a job, they can't get work, and so they go to the military, and a lot of them have underlying emotional or mental disorders that have never been diagnosed. So you have a larger percentage of people in the military with that background. So the chances of them, they probably would have been homeless even if they didn't go in the military.
Yeah.
So they always kind of give the VA and the military a bad rap, going, "Oh, man, look at all the homeless people you're creating." Those people, a lot of them probably would have been homeless anyway. But regardless of that, they did serve, and the country's obligated to help them.
Tell me about, you have a very impressive resume of education, and so Let's talk about that. Tell me about when you went to college and what all you learned.
So I got a bachelor's from A&M in leadership, organizational leadership, which is basically the studying leadership and stuff like that. And then I went for my master's. One of the reasons why and I finished my master's in adult training from A&M. One of the reasons I went in back to college and especially into my master's in 94, I was blown up and I had a traumatic brain injury. I got a brain tear. Mm-hmm. So I lost my reading and writing. It was extremely difficult. And my neuropsych guy at the VA had recommended me get back into school mm-hmm. to kind of force my brain to rewire. It was extremely difficult, but everything kind of started slowly coming together and it started working. So things work real well. Some days I still, my reading is still good. Some days I can't write. So I'll have Judy at the office, I'll have her write stuff for me mm-hmm. if I can't. Cause sometimes I'm like, I can't write today, I don't know why. And so she'll have to write for me. But then most of the other days I can write fine. So just kind of weird.
Mm-hmm. Well, here again, your life reflects a movie.
Yeah.
You've done all these. I'm telling you, it'd be a great screenplay. You have the injury, you lose some capabilities, mm-hmm. you have to rebuild and start over to get these things back, which for the most part are,
right.
And you got it figured out. But you also were magna cum laude mm-hmm. in your degree.
Studied my ass off. I did. I had a goal. I'm like, I'm going to beat this thing finally, and so I just fought and I fought. And it came back. I was really, really happy that I graduated.
Well, I'm proud for you. It's very impressive.
That was a proud moment for me. The hardest thing, obviously, is becoming a Marine. The second most difficult thing was getting my master's.
Mm-hmm.
That was harder than language school.
Really?
Yeah.
So you go, you learn a lot about corporate leadership,
mm-hmm.
Leadership education, training, assessing people, assessing companies, change management, process change, all kinds of things related to mm-hmm. operating a company, managing people, being a leader, directing people, training, and that common theme is there. And so you finish up your adult training, and then let's talk about your REO experience.
Yeah, so I got my license in 06 mm-hmm.
And
decided...
Your real estate license.
Yes, my real estate license. I was flipping houses before that from 97 to 06. I went ahead and got my real estate license and then decided the next economy was going to be or as far as the real estate market would be REO, because things were, back then, you fog a mirror, you got a loan, right? And so
pretty much
a reasonable person would kind of understand that's a very fragile stack of cards. So I decided to start working with banks. So I made a relationship with Citibank, Countrywide, Wells Fargo, VA, FHA, Fannie Mae. So I had gotten wired in with them really well, and I started listing foreclosures. This was before the economy tanked, so I was kind of already in. Mm-hmm. And then in 08, when the economy tanked, I got flooded.
Your timing was great.
I got flooded with work.
Yeah. So during this period of time, my notes say you did about $60 million in sales in mm-hmm. 10 years.
Actually, it was less than that. The bulk of it was from 08 to about 2014. Mm-hmm. That's when all of it happened.
It's over about a 6 or 7 year period.
Yeah. Sold a lot of properties.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of $10,000 lots and mm-hmm. $40,000 homes, and it's economy of scale. You don't make a lot per, but you close a boatload of them and you do well.
We're going to talk about your real estate career with United Real Estate in a minute, but just as a side note, you love automobiles.
Oh yeah.
So tell me what types of automobiles, and then what do you do? Because I watch you on Facebook. Yeah. You're on Facebook, and so I see where you're going. I loved your comment. I think you went up in Oklahoma
We got lost. And
yeah, you got lost and ended up eating a chicken fried steak.
So we're lost in the cholesterol belt.
That's
what I call it.
That was hilarious. I thought it was perfect. I actually want to send you a note and find out where that was. Was it as good as it looked?
Oh, my God. That was the best. I want to get lost in Oklahoma again. That was the best chicken fried I have ever had in my life.
Do you know where you were?
No. Something Falls. It was near Bowleg, wherever Bowleg, Oklahoma is.
Bowleg, Oklahoma.
Yeah, me and my buddy were just talking away, and somehow I don't know how we pulled off the freeway.
Now, you were coming back, what, down 75?
From Tulsa down 75.
Okay.
And we somehow turned. I don't know what we did. Maybe we got gas and took off the wrong direction.
That's pretty funny.
And just yakking away. And next thing you know, we're like, I'm hungry.
Well, the picture of the food was great.
Yeah, it was nice.
So tell me what kind of cars you're passionate about.
I like old BMWs. When I was a kid, we would my mom and dad would fly my sister and I back to Germany to spend the summers with our family over there. And my uncle's brother owned a BMW dealership. Mm-hmm. So my aunt would pick us up every year in the 70s and 80s in a brand new BMW. So I've always been in them when they were new. So I think that's where my affinity came from.
Sure.
So I've got a 1970 2002 named Walter, and I've got an 83 5 Series named Bono.
Mm-hmm. And so now, what you're doing now, I know you were in search of an engine. You purchased one, and it was like all complete and everything.
Yeah.
So what will you do with that engine that you just purchased?
That one's for my buddy Chris. It's my best friend Chris Roberts. He found a 67 280 SE Mercedes 4-door that's been sitting in a backyard in Cockrell Hill for 30 years. So we went and drug it out of the ground and got it to his house, and the motor was shot. So he found that motor up in Oklahoma. So that's how we ended up going up there. It was kind of funny. We're on the way and we're driving. He's like, you know what I realized, Nick? I'm like, what? He's like, he goes, between us we have 4 old cars and none of them run, and we're in the truck. I'm like, yeah,
just riding around eating chicken fried steaks. Yeah. That's funny. So you wrap up your career in REO, and then how did it? What happened after that?
I briefly took a job at Caliber Home Loans as a portfolio manager. I was handling their REO assets on the east and west coast. Then I got hired. I had about maybe $500, $600, $700 million of construction management history where I managed construction projects. So I became a construction manager for them, and I was managing about maybe 500 construction projects on the East Coast, reviewing bids and doing all that kind of stuff. So sure. I did that for a while, but if you know me, I can't sit still, and that cubicle life was just killing me. So I started looking to get back into what I always loved. I think I did it to prove to myself, because I'd always been self-employed. If I went in the military, I was self-employed. And I think one of the reasons I did it was to prove to myself I could have a job. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Which was kind of weird, because I'd never punched in and punched out, and it was kind of strange. So I did it, though.
So how did this all come about with us?
I saw an ad on Indeed, and I parked it under my maybes for about a couple months. Then I'm like, let me go and stick my resume. So I sent my resume, and then I got a call, and went in for an interview and got the position.
Mm-hmm. And how long ago was that?
That was I got hired at the end of November of 2017. I really became effective January 1st of 2018.
So you've been with us almost 2 years. Mm-hmm. We're getting close.
Yeah.
So when you accepted the position, received the position, what was the first thing you did? Since you'd never done it
Panicked.
Before, did you?
One thing I always do, I had gone to an REO, a bank had called me, or actually I called a bank to go talk to them about some of the REO assets, and I went in there in shorts and a T-shirt because I've been out in the field, and made a promise to them, and I left with $20 million in listings. Mm-hmm. And so what I always do is I panic, then I plan. Yep. So after I got over my panic, I started planning what I'm going to do. I started, Googling and YouTubing on what it means to be a broker of a firm, because I'd never done it before.
Yeah, it's really good to do that after you get the job.
Like, okay, how do you do this? Like brain surgery. Okay,
I want that job. I wonder what they do.
So I just jumped in, and my nature, once I accept a challenge, is to attack it, and so that's exactly what I did.
So you come into Dallas, specifically into this building, right down the hallway basically. I guess is this technically the first floor? Is this considered?
I don't know.
This seems like we're in the basement.
We're underground over here, but we're
Travis, do you know? Is this considered the first floor or the second floor?
I think it's considered like lobby area. So the first floor would be above us. This would be like pretty much like the lobby area.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because our numbers up there start with 2.
Yeah.
So it's like we're on the second floor, but we're not. Now
Yeah,
we are if you walk in from the parking area on the west side.
I guess it's easier than 1.5. What floor are you? We're on floor 1.5.
Now, see, that's your weird coming out. So when you came here, you realized, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. And then you started working on a plan.
Mm-hmm.
At the time that you came to us 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, you had roughly how many agents in that office?
We had 300.
You had 300 agents in that office, and here we are now, about 18 months. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 17, 18 months. And how many do we have now?
As of today, 516.
516. So that's pretty incredible growth.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, but you're not satisfied.
No, hell no, I'm not satisfied.
Yeah.
I have a bigger goal.
You have a bigger plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be satisfied when I hit what I want to hit.
You have your goal. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you what your goal is.
What's that?
I might be able to work it out of you. I don't know. I'm special ops too.
Well, I'm not going to tell you so that way if I get tired, I'm like, oh, that was my goal.
Yeah, well,
Just kidding.
but I do know you, and you and I have talked about this, and because your office is right next door to our offices.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'm in the United Real Estate corporate offices along with United SCS. But if you walk around the corner, that's the flagship, the original mothership for United Real Estate.
Yeah.
Tell me how you build a great office.
We already had a good staff there.
Mm-hmm.
It was more, for me, it was more of them learning my leadership style. I'm a servant leader. I'm very casual with my staff, but I trust. The way I look at it, it's like a special ops team. When someone says they're going to do it, you don't think twice about it. Because if you have to do, that person needs to get off the team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same with the staff. I trust them. I know they've got my back. They know I have their back. So for me, it allows me to operate a little bit more independent. So I'm not mired into the daily grind of transactions and stuff. I can stay focused on office growth, problem solving, developing training, and things like that. So.
Mm-hmm. The thing I like about this office, besides the fact that when we had the company design it, and I was there to see all the original drawings and the proposed plan of what it was going to look like, because my understanding at that time was we hired the same firm that designed Starbucks and then also designed the Admirals Clubs for American Airlines. Cool. I don't know if you knew that, but that is why your offices feel very comfortable.
Oh, everyone loves it.
Mm-hmm. And so when you walk in, you have your the young lady that's at the front desk, and then as you walk in, it immediately almost feels like a lounge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really does, and so it's very casual, and then you work your way through. We're considered a paperless operation. Is that right?
Correct.
So that's one of the unique things that makes us different, is that unlike some of the older franchise systems or established companies, we're not asking everyone to come to the office every day.
Correct.
We're not pushing desk time. You're not competing with the people that are in that office.
Correct.
That's not the goal, which is very different than some offices.
Yeah,
whether it's in the cities or in rural America. A lot of times the managing broker manages to get the best deals.
Yeah, and that's typically always the biggest producers.
And that's not what we do.
Yeah, never set well.
Tell me what your role is exactly.
I have one job, that's to take care of the agents, period. And that's through training, support, growth, and things like that. I'm not a competing broker. I never will be. I'm not going to serve two masters. I serve one, and that's as far as business goes, and that's being the broker of that firm. That's a full-time job. With that many agents, you can't operate divided and be effective. You can be kind of half effective on both. Is what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Or you get pulled more toward the money some big closings, and so you start maybe falling short of what you should be doing at the firm.
You're distracted.
Yeah, very distracted. Yeah.
So, who are the key people in your office that you depend on a lot?
I've got Lori Miles. She is the assistant manager. She runs the back office, the compliance. I have Judy. Judy works with her. I have Trouta up front, and then we have Gail. Gail is our seasonal help. During the spikes of the summer season, we hire temporary help to get us through the hump, and then we scale back down to our normal staff level.
During all the school relocations. It's crazy.
It's been a busy summer.
Yeah, and it has been. It has been. Do you have any other vendor relations that are in our office?
Yeah, we have a relationship with a title and a mortgage company, a home warranty company, a home inspector, the basic, kind of the basics.
All the basic services?
Yeah, all the basic services that a real estate firm kind of needs.
Got a drone guy?
Yeah, we got a drone guy.
I want to be a drone guy.
Me too. That's what my son does.
Yeah, I think that, I watch everybody else doing this thing, and I'm just thinking, now that would be fun.
Yeah. My son gets to play with the big ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, over in the Middle East.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty serious drones.
That's serious drones.
Yeah.
These aren't these little Radio Shack doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
These aren't the Best Buy drones. These are.
How big do they get?
They get huge.
I saw a feature on the news where they were showing these special op locations, and they're flying these drones from, all over the world. They're sitting here with all these screens. It's almost like NASA.
Yeah.
They're looking at all these screens, and they know. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's who would ever have thought that?
Well, and let me tell you, of course, I deal with a lot of real estate on a different side,
right?
But I deal with a lot of land, and I'm dealing with a lot of development land. I don't do a lot of residential unless it's high-end residential. But I can tell you, the clients today expect the drone.
Yeah.
And some of them have them. I was in Nebraska a week and a half ago looking at two deals, one in Lincoln and one out west. And, they know more about drones than some real estate people do.
When you have that, when you have a lot of acreage, and what a quick way to survey it. I just fly around and, there's a dead cow or whatever you're doing, it's easy to from above to see so much more. It's just really, really interesting.
We're getting ready to we have a ranch listing out west of here, out towards Abilene, in Haskell, Texas, and I think it's called the Muddy Creek Ranch. I think that's what it's called. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but we're going to do a drone event where we have our broker or our agent. Our agent will be at. I'm actually the broker, but we'll have the agent, and their office will be there, flying the drone live, where we can do like a preview of the property on a live Facebook post, and then also on the internet. Yeah. You don't have to drive to Haskell. You can be a rascal and just watch from your home.
That's funny. A rascal in Haskell.
Yeah. So anyway, it's very interesting to see the new technologies and things that we're doing. So you've hit the 500 mark, and that's a nice benchmark, and you're going to continue to do what you're doing. That you were recently recognized in Nashville for your good work and success with this office. There's just certain people in any company that are kind of like the standard bearers of success.
Right.
You're doing it. Dan Reedy up in Kansas City.
He's a great guy, too.
Great guy.
I like Dan.
Actually, Dan is going to come down and be featured on our show as well. And I can't remember how many properties he sold this last year.
200 and something.
By
he
himself.
Sold a lot. Yeah,
by himself. Of course, he's got a niche. He's got it figured out, and we're talking about doing some special things. But that's what makes a company unique and different, and a game changer. And as Dan Duffy likes to say, disruptive. He likes being disruptive. He doesn't want to be the standard. He doesn't want to do what they did 30 years ago. I remember when I got my license in 1983, there was no training. Somebody said, hey, you ought to join us. Oh, okay, I'll join you. And then that was the end of it. Yeah. It's just like, good luck. And, I moved my license 2 or 3 times trying to find a place that mattered, and ended up on O'Connor in Irving. And totally unsuccessful, but very fortunately for me, I was doing auctions, so I was able to list a farm or commercial property or some small houses, and that's kind of how I had to learn it that way.
Yeah.
But I was never a traditional realtor. I was always doing auctions, which is vastly different. You do all the same things for the marketing and advertising. You're doing all the sales work. It's just accelerated.
Right.
And so, I feel for people that are waiting for somebody to help them learn how to do this.
Yeah, it's still a business where the real estate agent has to have some of the basic traits to understand. A lot of people see nothing but a cloudy or foggy road, and some people see a very clear road, and that's reflective of any sales. I think sales job. Some people struggle. Some just like blow and go.
Yep.
But it is our job, my job, to give everybody a chance, train them. So I'm really, really big on training. A lot of the issues younger or new agents or even senior agents that are having trouble is a lot of it's trainable, especially with the way the industry is changing and technology and the perception of the public in general in regards to what is your value to me now since I have Zillow and Realtor.com and Trulia. Why do I need an agent? And they still do, but our proposition to them has changed, and as a brokerage firm, we need to make sure our agents can adapt to those changes to stay relevant.
That's a very interesting thing that we're dealing with right now. It's just the change, because so much is available at the fingertips, but the expertise is different. That's the kicker. Is knowing what a seasoned professional knows. You can't learn that overnight on Zillow or Yahoo or Google or whatever. I'm telling you,
No, you're right.
You just can't do it. There's nothing like success and failure.
Yep.
Success and failure and having to deal with calling audibles and doing different things. That's how you learn.
Yeah, the general public, they've been trained. We've been trained. I'm no different. I'm the general public. We want stuff better, cheaper, and faster. Like Amazon, they're successful because we get it better, we get it cheaper, we get it faster. And that mindset bleeds over into everything: car sales, real estate. The clients want it better, they want it cheaper, they want it faster. One of the reasons we've grown so well is our agents have the capacity to do it better, cheaper, and faster because they're at a firm like United. That's why their success tends to go up once they get here.
Well, and I think probably from the agent standpoint, that's important. That's the toolbox. That's the tools. But from a financial standpoint, being a part of United Real Estate has a huge upside.
Oh yeah.
And because our dynamic is we're pretty much a flat fee deal, and so we're not a commission based deal, unlike most. Almost, I'm still amazed when I talk to somebody and they're talking about what their splits are.
I know, you're like, you're what? You're on a split?
Yeah. Oh, it's like, well, if I hit this number, then once I hit this number, then I don't have to pay in anymore or whatever. But I mean, it's not inconsequential. It's pretty serious money.
That's a ton of money.
And what's really weird is with these new agents. Of course, the new agents getting started are usually starving anyway. They need that first 2 or 3 deals, and then you hear, oh yeah, I'm on a 60-40 split, and I go, what's the 60-40? And they go, well, they get 60 and I get 40. And I'm like,
are you kidding?
Like, how does that work? My kid, would have been wearing bigger shoes than that. So, I think people really, I will just say this: if you're interested, if someone is truly interested in being a part of a growing company, and you've demonstrated how fast it's growing, and then it's happening in other places too. We're going into new territories, and for people that don't know, and I still meet people that go, I say, do you know United Real Estate? And they go, no, I've never heard of United Real Estate. I said, well, let me tell you about United Real Estate. We're in Beverly Hills. We're in Miami. We're in Chicago. You start listing off all the cities that United Real Estate is in, and it's not inconsequential at all.
It's impressive.
It is. Yeah. And we've done all this in how many years did you say?
Like 7 years.
7 or 8 years.
Yeah, and
that is going out of a major recession.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was kind of what the plan was from the corporate leadership. Our feeling was if we could build it during the recession, then when we came out of the recession, we would be poised to accelerate and hit the gas. And that's what I believe. I still believe that, this is baby steps. There's always going to be some pain points along the way, but I think we're quickly getting out of that. How often do you do training in your office?
We do it twice a week. We have it in the office. A lot of some agents still like to come to the office for the training, but we also stream it all live on our private Facebook page. So, one of the keys to keeping agents producing is keeping them mobile. So anytime you tie someone down for training, they're actually losing money while they're sitting there.
Yep.
They need to be able to train at their convenience during their downtime, whether it's lunch, whether it's at home on the weekend.
2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, whatever, when they can't sleep or whatever it is. We as a brokers have to understand that we can't stop them and say, hey, stop, log in, take this training. You can't do it. That's a very ineffective and unfair way to train people. So one of the first things I did when I came here was made our training mobile.
If somebody was interested in, I'm going to talk about 2 things here. The first is if someone is watching this and they're thinking about making a career change and they need to go to real estate school, do you have a recommendation for that?
I have always liked Champion School of Real Estate. They are a fantastic example of a very well organized, very well respected school. There's a lot of schools. But my preference, I go to Champions when I do my continuing ed and stuff. I've just always liked, I've liked the company. I like their mission. I like how they treat their students. I like their success rate. So to me, it is a first-rate company.
And I know they've also helped us with some training and things of that nature.
Yep.
So I wanted to bring that whole training thing in. Now, if they have a license, maybe they're holding their license somewhere else, and whether they're active or inactive or whatever, but they need to be with a company and they want to see some new things and try some new things and find out what we're all about. How would they, where should they, first off, what website should they go to?
United Real Estate or UnitedRealEstateDallas.com. The Dallas one obviously takes you directly to the Dallas site. The general United Real Estate site will take you to the main home company site.
Well, if they're in Dallas, they should go to
UnitedRealEstateDallas.com.
Okay, and if someone wanted to have a personal conversation with you, can they go through there, or do you want to give them a general phone number that they can call?
Well, you can click the contact me on the webpage and it works fine. I give everyone my personal cell phone number. It's 214-564-5766. I get so many spam calls that I always tell people text me first. That's the quickest way to get a hold of me, whether it's midnight on a Saturday or Sunday, I'll answer it. And I just prefer it that way.
I'm going to have you repeat that one more time.
The phone number? Yeah, it's 214-564-5766.
Okay, very good. Well, you have lived a very interesting life.
Still am.
And you continue to change people's lives, and you're helping people live their dreams. You have had a great run, and you'll continue to do so. I know something about your goals, and I'm excited about them. You're gonna set the woods on fire the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and we're very proud of you for being a part of United Real Estate. Thank you very much. As a stockholder, you just keep it up, my friend. So we thank Nick for being with us today, and much continued success. And that's our show for today. I'll be back next Monday. We've got another great show for you. And on behalf of Travis and everyone else who's been a part of this one here in Dallas at Lincoln Center at the corner of LBJ Freeway and the North Dallas Tollway, we bid you adieu from Dallas. God bless. Take care, and we'll see you next week.